Welcome to The Extraordinary Marriage. Today, I have an Air Force veteran turned registered nurse, turned full-time mom, turned homeschool mom, and now entrepreneur. Say that for me, Tiffany. Entrepreneur, right?
Yes.
Welcome
Or
to.
crazy. You can also use the word crazy.
Hey,
That
that
would be fitting as well.
that fits me too sometimes, and I don't have a bunch of kids. All right, so Tiffany Wicks has a podcast. Tell us about your podcast because that tells us about your family.
It really does. So my podcast name is To the Nines Podcast with Tiffany Wicks. And if you're familiar with old English idioms, that is a nod to doing the very best that you can. If you were to say, oh, that experience was to the nines, it's like, oh, that was the best that you possibly could have. And I do have 7 kids. There are 2 parents. Last time I checked, old school math, 7 and 2 was 9. So it's a slight nod at my family as well, because I certainly wouldn't be doing much of anything without their support. So, To
I
the Nines
love that.
Podcast with Tiffany Wicks.
To the nines. And so, what all do you talk about on To the Nines?
We talk about everything business, mindset, encouragement, and a lot of times some tough talk about how to get your butt up and moving and starting to reach the goals that you haven't even had the bravery to speak out loud yet.
I love that because, women, whether you're working full time or you have kids or don't have kids or you're a stay at home mom, it's like we need that kick in the butt sometimes to get moving. And I don't know about you, but a lot of times I'm in my head and I'm like fussing at myself in my head. And that really doesn't help me very much. It really frustrates me or takes me down. And I've kind of learned to stop talking to myself like that and to use some positive words with myself. I bet you do some of that on your podcast.
I do a lot of that, but I think moreover, what women need is for whatever reason. Well, I know the reason, and we'll definitely get down into a little bit of a rabbit hole on this one. But what women are looking for is permission. They're looking for somebody to tell them you're a good little girl for the choices you have made. They haven't yet reached inside of themselves and said, I am independent, I am strong, I am capable, I am worthy, I am loved, regardless of what your opinion is about what I do. I have a father in heaven that said, I am a princess in his kingdom, and I am prepared to grab a hold of my thoughts, my dreams, and execute them. And I don't need your permission to do it. I am capable of making those decisions on my own.
Woo!
Women are seeking permission, but they absolutely don't need it.
Men never ask permission, do they?
Never do. And even when it goes to applying for jobs, a woman will typically look at the job description and say, oh, look at that. I'm not qualified. And I'm like, it's a guideline, babe. Apply. What's the worst they're going to do? Say no? Okay, so someone saying no, if that sends you down to a road of tears, then we've got to start working on getting you a bit more confident. And confidence comes from doing whatever the thing is that you're trying to do. You don't have confidence first and then do it. You've got to do the scary thing. You've got to have courage, and then you gain the confidence. And then that's where you gain commitment to keep going.
I was just reading in one of Valerie Burton's books today, and she was talking about focusing on our strengths and what we do well. And as women, we're really quick to tell you what we don't do well because we got that down. Or maybe it's the fact that if we did say what we do well, we feel like we're bragging. There again, I'm going to go back to the thing where the guys, they tell you how good they are, don't they? Most of them tell you how good they are.
Absolutely. And I am really working on a lot of women, like be a little braggadocious. In fact, be a lot. And I've had people say, sounds a little arrogant when I say, I'm awesome. If you don't like me, that's your loss because I'm pretty dope in a lot of different ways. And it's none of my business. Your opinion of me is none of my business. Whatever, that's you. And generally, people react out of their own past experiences. So if they've been damaged, if they've been harassed, if they've had
Hmm.
their heart broken, they bring that into any new relationship, even if it's just relationally online, they'll bring it and it will come out. I am an online marketer, so I see the gamut from people who are incredibly supportive to the people that will work really hard to tear you apart as a human. You just
Mm.
can't let them because that's their own damage coming out. And you just got to say, man, sorry, sounds like you had a rough life. and have some deep compassion for where that anger is coming from, because truly it has nothing to do with you. It has
Absolutely.
everything to do with them.
And I think that anybody who works with people or with relationships of any sort, whether it's moms and teenagers or kids or couples, it comes down to that fact. Everybody says that in one way or another. When there's a problem in any relationship, it's not usually about you, it's usually about that person. There's some kind of problem that they have going on. And, in the communication styles that I teach, the personality styles, it comes down to that confidence level, Tiffany, that you have comes down to it. And maybe it was taught at home too, or maybe your parents lifted you up, but it is comes from within, and it is that direct person. They're ambitious. They go after what they want, and it's really a personality style. And some people are super quiet, super humble. They don't say anything good about themselves, or they don't like conflict, all different kind of reasons. But let me share this. The first time I met you, it's been maybe 8 or 10 years ago now. Maybe not that long, maybe 7 or 8. And
Yeah.
the first time I met you, we were at a business women's function, and you came in and you just held yourself so tall and so confident. And you introduced yourself and you told about all your children, and you told that you homeschooled your children. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I loved being home with my kids, but I would not ever want to homeschool. That's an extreme commitment to me. But I just remember how confident that you were. And when you present confidence like that, it's like people take notice, and they want what you have.
They do. They do. And, a lot of times confidence can be contagious to other people. So, I mean, that's just an exchange of energy, really, because our energy all started with the creation of humans. And that energy, if you remember eighth grade science class, it was created in the beginning by our Father, but it can never be destroyed. It's only transferred. So if you walk through this world confident and, taking this is I always say I've got 0 F's to give, and you can say flying farts, you can put whatever F in there that you
Okay.
want, but when you've got none of those to disperse because their opinions of what you're doing are none of your own business, it really makes taking other people's opinions so lighthearted. So you mentioned perhaps your parents built you up. Let me just go down that road for just a second, because they did not. I was not in a family that I was loved, valued, or respected. In fact, my parents didn't want us. And I say us because I have two other sisters.
Oh.
My mother was incredibly young when she got married, and she got married because she was pregnant. And when I say young, 16. Okay. She
Oh.
was 16. And then she got pregnant again with us twins. So I have a twin sister.
I
So
did not know that.
yeah, she had 3 kids, 3 and under, by the time she was 19 years old. And she
Wow.
was married to an Army soldier, and he's 10 years her senior. So believe me, if I had I have a 14-year-old is my oldest girl. I have 4 boys, 3 girls. If I had a 24-year-old walking around my house barking at my daughter, we'd have major troubles. He would have troubles. I would be free of them because he wouldn't be around very long. But this is the way things were when my mother was younger. So there she was, 19 years old, 3 kids under 3. They struggled immensely, and like I said previously, her pain, she didn't know what to do with. Her struggle, she had no idea where to put that, so that got put on us. 3 innocent children that she had no idea how to align with. She did not see a good representation of motherhood with her own mother, nor did she see a successful marriage in that. And my parents, they are still married today, but there was one divorce in the middle, and then they got back together again.
Oh,
And as they are right now, um, I mean, I think I would say they were happy per se. We don't have much of a relationship at this point. Mostly, their choice. Now that they don't have minor children in the home, they are very distracted, just trying to live their best life, living for themselves. And part of me is like, well, bravo, good for you. I made it anyway. But that was a God gift of tenacity. God gave that to me as His special gift to just keep going. And the only way I've gained this confidence, as I mentioned earlier, was because I kept going every single time I fell on my face and failed. over and over and over and over again. I just never let it stop me. Maybe it was a bit of arrogance. Maybe I was just too stupid to know my limits. Sometimes I still think that's me. Like, you are just too dumb to know when to stop.
I
But
think that's a good
nonetheless,
thing.
I'm having a great time in my life, and there's a lot of stress surrounding homeschooling and business and family and marriage. And you mentioned bringing baggage from previous life into your own life. Well, that happened our first year of marriage. I've been married 18 years now to a guy I only knew for 3 months. We were only in the same town for about 3 weeks, but our first year of marriage was a doozy. We both sucked at being married. We had no idea how to do this. We didn't even know how to live together because we hadn't. We didn't even know how to be in the same town with each other because at one point I was all the way in Al Udeid Air Base, Qatar in the desert, and he was in Georgia, Florida, then Alaska. And then somehow I come home from deployment. He's all the way in Alaska. We get married, and then we go to a home and we're like, all right, let's live together. How the heck do we do this?
Wow, I can't wait to
So,
hear about that. So tell me about your first year.
okay, so our first year, I'll tell you, the moment we realized that we were going to have to make sacrifices was the first day we got back from our very quick 3-day honeymoon up in the mountains. We needed to go grocery shopping, right? That's what new couples do. And I was, because I have always loved food. I've always been a little bit of a nutrition snob, so I love food. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be so fun. We get to go grocery shopping as a married couple, and we get to buy food together. This will be super fun.
Hey, if I
Well, we're going.
recall, it's kind of like, oh, we get to play house.
Oh, I know. And I was like, well, this will be fun. We're going to go together and walk hand in hand down the supermarket aisle. And then I'm going to grab stuff and he's going to grab stuff and we're going to make meals and make this beautiful life together. Well, we get to the milk section and I'd been living on my own. He'd been living on his own. Well, he opens the door for the full fat milk. I open the door for the fat free milk. And then we stop, look at each other and are like, are we going to have 2 gallons of milk in our house? Or like, what do we do with this? And that was the moment the light bulb went off. And I was like, oh, wait, we're going to have to work together on way more than just milk. Like, believe it or not, it had not hit me at that point that I was going to have to work together with this man and give things up that I might want in a marriage. It had not really occurred to me because a beautiful marriage was not modeled for me either. They are still married, but it doesn't make it beautiful just because you're there,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So what did we do? We compromised. And guess what milk we bought? 2%. So from there on, we did 2%.
Win. That's a win because you met in the middle. Whenever I'm teaching some of my classes, I always talk about people meeting in the middle. I have to ask you this question. Are y'all just alike? Are you opposites? Do you complement each other? How does that roll?
Okay, so I would say energy wise, we are complete opposite. I am really high energy, really outgoing. He is very reserved, pretty quiet. I am naturally very people, street smart. He is 100%. I mean, he's wise in that respect as well.
Trusting. Mhm.
But intellectually, dude's off the charts, crazy smart. I'm smart because I work at it, but that was not a gift that was given to me. I was given other things. He was given the power of intellect. So in that respect, we are completely different. But then there are other ways that we are very much the same. Our humor is very different. And to be quite honest, we actually communicate horribly. We are awful communicators. So when people say that's the key to the successful marriage, I
Not
raise a
yours.
foul flag. I'm like, no, actually, I don't think that's the key to a successful marriage. And I
Can
can
be though,
share with you,
Tiffany.
do
Can
what?
be. It can be because when
It
people don't
can be,
communicate,
but I don't
but
think that's the make or break in a successful marriage is being a clear communicator because I'm very openly telling you that we're horrible at it. We
and you got
communicate
18
like
years
crap.
in. You got 18 years in. So
That's
hey,
right.
you found something that works. So tell me what works.
Unwillingness to quit.
So you both are unwilling to quit.
We're unwilling to quit. So we first off, I wake up every morning and I think to myself, what can I do to make Adam glad he married me? What
Oh,
where is that? Where is that moment? So maybe that comes with I start the coffee and he's sitting down here working on the budget, and I'll bring him a cup of coffee and set it in front of him and say, here you go, I made your coffee for you. And he's like, thank you so much. Perhaps it's throwing his load of laundry and, folding his shirt, or helping pack food so he can get ready for a trip. He's a pilot, so he leaves a lot. What can I do every day to make him think, man, I'm glad I married her? And that's how I live my life. He also lives the same life where he asks himself the exact same question. So when it comes down to whether one or the other is being selfish, it doesn't actually happen, because he's 100% looking out for me and I'm 100% looking out for him.
Oh,
Therefore, I never have to take care of my own heart.
I love that. And I haven't really ever heard anybody explain it like that or say that communication wasn't it. But you know what? Y'all are communicating in your own way by taking that minute and thinking about what can I do for him? And he's doing the same. But Tiffany's every relationship's not like that. Most of the time people are not thinking at all. They are just responding,
Right.
to frustration, and they're not thinking at all. And so he may be super intelligent, but see, you found your super intelligence too of how can we make this work? And if more people would think like that, it definitely would help. But it does take two people in, you know?
It really does. I mean, you both have to be committed to be unselfish in your endeavors to create a team environment. So, having 7 kids, it's very easy to get pulled into one direction with, okay, well, you yelled at this kid and I disagreed with that. And then next thing you know, you're siding with your kid, and then your
Mhm.
kids no longer see a united front. They never
Yes.
see that with Adam and I. Even if I disagree, and I did, even this morning, I disagreed with the way he handled the situation with one of our kids. And on the surface, the kid came up, was like, oh, dad hollered at me about this. And I said, well, looks like that shouldn't have been left there. And perhaps you and dad can have a conversation about a better way to communicate in a little while. As soon as my husband got back home, I pulled him into the other room and I said, I don't like the way you handled that with him. You really ought to think about apologizing and humbling yourself about raising your voice out of something that probably didn't warrant that. But I pull him to the other room. I did not tell my kid, your dad yelled at you and shouldn't have done that. No way, because I
Right.
am not going to let them see that we are fractured in any capacity. We are always a united front. And we're committed to each other to always be on the same team. Even if we disagree, think about any sports team. You can disagree about way the quarterback threw the football, but you're still on the same team and you still want the best for the quarterback and you still want to get a touchdown at the end.
So, Tiffany, where did you learn that if it wasn't modeled for you? I'm curious.
In the beginning of my marriage, after the rough first year, when my husband said, that's it, let's just get divorced, I'm terrible at this. He said, you can have everything. I said, what do you mean everything? You're a broke lieutenant and I'm working my way through college as a nurse. Like, we don't have anything. And I laughed because I was like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. We suck at this because we're new. It's not that we don't love each other, it's because we're new at it. We got to allow ourselves to suck a little and we're going to see our way through to the end. I'm like, no, we're not getting divorced, you dope. We're going through this and we're just going to figure out how to get better at being married.
And
So that's
you,
what
the
we did.
fighter. And it is that personality style that you have, Tiffany. I'm telling you, you're the fighter. And so immediately you thought, what can I do about this? How do I solve this problem? Because guess what? Also on your personality style, I can't help but talk about that because I mean, like you are a prime example, and your personality style is a problem solver. Is that true?
Oh, for sure. That's the most common phrase spoken in my house is go solve some problems. Figure it out. I don't know how to do this. Of course, because you haven't done it, but can you figure it out? I don't just hand my kids solutions because that doesn't help them. And as soon as people are capable of doing things on their own, I expect that they're going to be doing it on their own. Because if I continue to handhold and offer this scaffolding throughout their entire life, they're never going to gain that independence to fail in order to gain the confidence to keep living their life out loud. It will never happen.
I love that you are not a smother mother, and by making kids figure it out, it causes them to think. And I think we live in a society these days where certain entities think that they can just tell you what they want you to think, and there's too many people out there not thinking or analyzing for themselves, and they just follow. And when you raise kids that just follow and don't think, it's like, I think all of our moms probably said, "Hey, if your friend jumps off a cliff, would you jump off when, follow them and jump off too?" And everybody was like, "No." But that's what happens in our society, is that people follow and they just jump off the cliff because somebody else did.
Well, and with my personality set, I would also say, well, I don't know. Tell me a little bit more about the cliff. How tall is it? Is there anything underneath it? Is it water? Could I land there? Could it be fun? Would it be an adventure? Am I saving this person? Like, I would ask 1,000 questions about the cliff, because it's too simplistic to say something like that without taking into account the entire dynamic nature of how we are as humans and in this world we're living in.
I
You have to
love
ask better
you.
questions.
I love you. I love your energy. I love your thought processes. I love you. So that would be one of my few things that probably does drive my husband crazy, is I ask those questions. And he feels like I'm integrating him, but I'm just trying to get further into whatever it is so I can figure out, because I analyze everything.
All right, so let me tell you, this is my fix for that, because my husband can often feel attacked as well. Here's my solution. I always say, so I'm just curious. I would like to know a little bit more about your thoughts regarding whatever it is. So if I tell him this is just my curiosity and I want to hear you, then it lets him know I'm not attacking him. It lets him know that I am just I want to hear him. Not only am I not attacking him, but I want to know his thoughts. I'm asking for them. And men are fixers. They want to make every problem we have go away, which leads back to the conversation about communication. I am very good at telling my husband when I want him to solve a problem or when I just want him to listen. And it starts out like that. Hey, babe, I'm about to talk to you. I don't want you to solve anything for me. I just want you to hear me. This is going to be a entire B session, and I need you just to hear it and then validate what I'm telling you. And he's like, cool. So it sets him in the right frame of mind that I'm not asking you to fix anything. And if I'm frustrated about anything that has to do with him, he just knows I'm just getting it off my chest. And then he's like, yeah, I too would be frustrated, I believe, if that were happening in my world. I'm like, great. We both would be frustrated. Awesome. Moving on. And then I just put it behind me. I time limit my level of frustration so that it doesn't hang with me like a bad apple all day long, just, a stinky fart you can't get away from. Like, I don't want that hanging around me anymore. So I time limit it. All right, I'm going to spend 20 minutes being ticked off about whatever it is. I'm going to work that emotion. I'm going to push it through my body. I'm going to let it go. And then I'm going to go out and live an abundant life.
That's tremendous. But guess what, Tiffany? You are a communicator.
Right.
You
I
really are.
communicate, yes, but our dual commute. Did you do that? I thought, and here is I think mainly what it is we both make assumptions about what each other is or is not doing,
Mhm.
because we're both still, although we were able to find a middle ground on the milk. And by the way, I know everyone really wants to know, now that we have kids, we're back to whole milk, and I'm okay with that. But we find a way to honor each other's humanity. Okay. I don't expect him to be Superman, because he's not. There's only one Superman that ever walked the face of the earth, and his name is Jesus. My guy
Mm.
is Adam. So I respect his humanity. I respect that he's going to make mistakes, because guess what? I'm making them too. I am not perfect. So if I'm able to honor his humanity, he's able to honor mine. We can agree that we're on the same team, always and forever, until one of us die. And then going further, we can treat each other with the utmost respect, because after all, if the way you just talked to your husband, you talk to anyone else on the street like that,
Mhm.
they probably would have punched you in your nose. The only
Mhm.
reason women and men tend to think that they can is because it feels safe to do it. So I like to tell my kids the exact same thing. I'm sorry, you don't like what I prepared for dinner. Fair. Not everyone's going to like the meal. But would you have said that exact same thing the way you said it to me? Would you have said that to Amelia's mom?
Mm-mm.
No. Then what in the world makes you think you can talk to me like that? And
Woo!
she's like, well, all right then. I say, we're gonna try that again, and you're gonna tell me with respect that you don't care for this particular meal. So then they will rewind it. So Adam and I, if we feel ourselves tensions are starting to rise, I'll say, I need a few minutes. I'm getting frustrated, and I love you too much to say something that's going to
Mhm.
hurt you. Okay. So
Oh,
if you give me 5, I'll be back. And again, I'm going to time limit it because it's not fair to leave a conversation just hanging in the ethos with somebody's heart on the line. Because if you don't take account your spouse's heart, you're missing the entire purpose of being a united front to begin with. It wasn't just a ring. You tied your hearts together.
All right, so I have to take this to all those strong-minded women who are hearing Tiffany and they're going, "Oh yeah, she's me. She's me." But here's the thing, most of those strong-minded women like you don't analyze and think all the things that you've said today and be thoughtful of the other side. They aren't thoughtful of their spouse and all that strength that you have. If somebody has that and they don't know how to contain it, they don't know how to contain their temper, they don't know how to have patience, they don't know how to be aware of their own behavior, then that exact thing that has held you together with your spouse in its communication, you're communicating with him and telling him what you want and don't want. That exact style that you have is what divides many families because I'll guess this, Tiffany, probably top emotions. Something goes wrong. Your immediate response is, are you non emotional? You know, you're cool. Don't get upset either way. Do you withdraw or do you get mad?
Depends on what it is.
But typically, probably, with everything you told me, your first thing is anger, but the thing is that you have learned to control it. You recognize it, you're aware of it, you pause, and you don't
Mhm.
blast. You don't blast the person in front of you. Pause and think about it, contemplate
Mhm.
before you allow your mouth to open. True?
Oftentimes, yes, that would be true for me. But let me go back real quick to what you said about these women who can't control their
Mm.
mouths or their emotions. I would like to put a challenge to you. If what you're saying and your emotions right now, would you do that when the cop pulls you over on the side of the road? Would you, because you are angry, you are now late, you have a $300 ticket, and this is not part of, would you do that to him? If the answer is no, then the correct assumption is you can control yourself. You choose not to. So
Ooh.
now you need to dig in why you're choosing not to control yourself with your spouse or with your kids because you're capable of it. You've shown out in the world that you are, unless you're just blowing your top off at everybody around you. And then I might consider that you should probably be committed for a minute to get a hold of your anger management because there is something psychologically off with you. But that's not the case. 99% of the time, you have chosen not to. Now dig into that. Why did you choose not to be loving, kind, and respectful to your spouse?
I was talking to a guy yesterday in Canada, and that's what he said. Actually, his podcast was a couple weeks ago, but that's what he said was the first thing he had to do. He and his wife were both strong minded like you, and they fought like cat and dog. You know, it's just always responding and not being proactive. You're very proactive, Tiffany.
Mhm.
So they responded, and his first thing he had to do was go to anger management to figure that out because everybody doesn't know what to
Right.
do with their frustration.
Well, and let me tell you something that might seem like a surprise, and I promise you it's not a lie. We actually don't fight. Adam and I don't have fights.
Hallelujah.
You
Nobody
know,
wants
but
to see it.
right, but you know, how do you get through 18 years of marriage and you don't fight with a person? Well, it comes down to again, why would I fight a struggle of wills? Okay, why would I fight with the person that I am in love with? And you're,
Oh.
well, I'm not in love. Well, okay, well, that's a bigger problem. That's something different
Mhm.
because again, love is a choice. I've made it every single morning. Even if I am upset with him about something, I still wake up and say, what can I do to make him happy and joyful and glad he married me? I don't like him a whole lot right now, but that doesn't matter. If the world runs on emotions, then go ahead and turn on CNN. You see what we get when the world starts running on emotions. You have
Every
to run
day.
your marriage on calculated thoughts and they
Mhm.
have to be strategic, just like a business, just like a family. You have to have strategy behind what you're doing and then harbor your emotions, get control of them because you can. You just choose not to a lot of the time.
I love it. You have had some great points today, and I really could talk to you for a very long time, but
Really could.
I really could. I love your energy. Um, Well, so share with us a little bit about what you're actually doing. I know you're a coach and you have a business. Share with us a little bit about that, and you'll be able to find these things on theextraordinarymarriage.com/podcast. You'll under Tiffany's episode. Tell us about what you do.
Okay, so I stay at home with my 7 kids and I homeschool them. Also, I am a health and fitness coach. So I coach mostly women at this point, but I can coach men. There are some men that just don't want to do the bro scene in the gym, and that's totally great. I can coach you online on how to achieve your fitness goals, meaning burning fat, building muscle, lean mass, having more energy, feeling sexier in your own body, all that. So I'm a health and fitness coach. I also have an online marketing on the side. So my website's being built right now. It's not quite done. I have a podcast, and yeah, living this best life I can here with all these munchkins running around.
And where do they find you on your podcast?
So the podcast can be heard on both Spotify and Apple under To the Nines podcast with Tiffany Wicks. With the show notes, you can also put in my link tree that has links to all the things on my marketing. It has links to start up with my health and fitness coaching program. It has freebies on there. It has discount links. It has my email link if you want to be part of my email community. All value driven. The best place to find me and keep up with all my shenanigans is on Instagram. So I am at Tiffany L. Wicks on Instagram, and it is Tiffany Wicks on Facebook and LinkedIn.
All right. I love it. So there again, you can find everything on the extraordinarymarriage.com/podcast. And at the bottom of my podcast page, I've got a recipe for a happy, healthy marriage. And like I said, you can find all Tiffany's stuff there too. Tiffany, you have been extraordinary today. I love it.
Thank
I
you.
love it. And I know that you would be a great coach. And hey, it's online, so anybody can join that. And
Mhm.
the truth is, when we're being coached, we're trying to figure out, what to eat, how to exercise. We need a dynamic, energetic person to breathe into us quite often. And I think that you would be excellent at that.
Yep, and it's all delivered through a convenient app. So you have it all right there at your fingertips. I just coach you through those struggles when you're like, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Shut it. Of course you can.
No
So we move
excuses.
through. Yeah, you don't have any. Don't. And if you do, and I have a whole podcast episode actually called "Make Don't Make Your Reasons an Excuse."
Ah, I
So
might have
sit
to
with that title. That's a
might
good
have to
one.
listen to that.
You
Yeah,
might
don't
have great reasons why you're not successful, but you can't make them to be your excuse because everything is figure outable in some respect.
awesome. Well, thank you for coming today.
You're welcome. Thanks so much for having me. I look forward to talking with you again soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Cheers.